أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألم تر أن الفلك تجري في البحر بنعمة الله ليريكم من آياته إن في ذلك لآيات لكل صبار شكور وإذا غشيهم موج كالظلل دعوا الله مخلصين له الدين فلما نجاهم إلى البر فمنهم مقتصد ولا يجحد بآياتنا إلا كل ختار كفور رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Our respected elders and brothers, beloved viewers at home, alhamdulillah, every Sunday we try to sit for a little bit and try to go over some of the verses of the Quran, try to understand them, and ultimately be able to implement them in our lives. Alhamdulillah, today we're going to go over just a couple of verses from Surah Luqman, which is very dear to all of our hearts. We know the beginning story and the incident of Luqman alayhi salam and his son, some of the admonishment and advices he gives to his son. But today we're going to focus on the end of the surah. Maybe we'll try to find some relevance of those verses to what is going on now, especially with the uncertainty of what's coming for us in the coming months. So, inshallah, we'll start with Surah Luqman, verse number 31, where Allah Azza wa Jalla draws our attention to one of His qudra, one of His miracles. You see, the whole universe is full of miracles. We just have to open our eyes and look at it. You talk to, highly educated people who have given so much of their lives and time into learning about the human body, for example, pursuing medicine, becoming top-notch doctors, and etc. But you talk to them about the what is going on in the human body and how we all came about into existence. They will just tell you straight up, it's evolution, right? They have studied years and years of their lives spent in learning about this universe, which is in their body, yet they still deny that all of this just came by chance, right? So here Allah Azza wa Jal again directs our attention to another miracle of Allah Azza wa Jal. ألم تر أن الفلك تجري في البحر بنعمة الله ليريكم من آياته إن في ذلك لآيات لكل صبار شكور. Allah says, do you not see, do you not look at, have you not seen al-fulk, the ships, the big ships? How big? Some ships are so big, they're like a whole village, especially the cruise ships that you see. People go on it for weeks from one end of an ocean, one continent to another continent. It's like a park, amusement place. There's hotels there, there's pools there, there's water parks there. All of those things are in that one ship, right? So do you not see how this ship flows, sails on the sea, in the ocean? بِنِعْمَةِ by the grace of Allah Azza wa Jal. Do you not see that? And if you throw something as small as a penny or a nickel or a dime or a quarter, it's going to sink in the glass of water. But if you go to the ocean and you take such a humongous ship that can carry so much load, and by the way, if this thing wasn't capable, or if water wasn't able to carry such loads, maybe in 1 week our supermarkets would become half empty, if not full. And you go to the malls, and probably also become half empty. Right? Remember when like these hurricanes come and all of these natural disasters happen, the route to the ship routes or whatever else, they become a little bit dangerous. So that's why the supermarkets become empty. So imagine this thing wasn't there, right? The fact that big ships are able to float on the ocean, right? Our lives would slow down so much. Right? Basic thing that we take for granted wouldn't be able to reach to us. Right? Or you might say, well, we have airplanes. If you ever try to ship something from one country to another country through airplane, and then you go and try to do it with the ship, you will see the price difference, right? So today maybe you're paying for a jacket maybe $20. And if the manufacturers have to start shipping jackets with airplanes, the cost will probably become $60, right? And we probably just recycle and reuse our old jackets, right? So do you not see how these ships are able to float? These big, big ships are able to float on the water by the grace of Allah Azza wa Jal. So what, you think this is just happening for no reason? Why don't you just contemplate for a second? You will see that there's signs in that. لِيُرِيَكُم مِّنْ آيَاتِهِ, so that Allah can show you His signs. Right? Allah sanurihim ayatina fil afaq. Allah promised us that He's gonna show us His signs all around the horizon. You gotta look with an open heart, open mind, and open your eyes completely. لِيُرِيَكُم مِّنْ آيَاتِهِ. Right? What is it that's in the water that's letting this happen? It's the same water, right? إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِكُلِّ صَبَّارٍ شَكُورٍ. Indeed, in that there are signs for every person who is sabbar, who is patient, who's steadfast, and who's shakur, who's grateful. So you might say, how is there a sign for that for the people who are patient, right? Well, one thing for sure is that in order for you to let something have an effect on you, you gotta first understand it on a deep level. You have to build this neurological paths in your mind first. First of all, in order for you to retain that information, and then after you retain it and after you fully grasp it, only then you will see changes come into your behavior or your understanding based on that first contemplation and understanding that you had. So those deep levels of understanding can be just done passively. You can't just sit there and think at such deep level. You have to actively think. You have to sit there for hours perhaps and contemplate and think over these miracles. So, I mean, if you look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ, before he received wahi and revelation, there was days and weeks he would be where? In Mount Hira, and he would be just contemplating, right? This is not a passive thing you do. You just ride in the car, and right, you have to like have patience to sit there and be able to contemplate over the miracles of Allah Azza wa Jal. Similarly, Sahaba, Khabbab ibn al-Arath radiallahu anhu, before he became Muslim, it wasn't just, oh, he just came and stumbled across Islam and then he accepted it. Before he found out about Islam, he would sit there for days and just, have existential thoughts about who he is, where he came from, and is there a almighty being that he has to worship? Right? So you gotta have patience in order for you to for you to understand the signs that are out there. Right? So that's what Allah says. Indeed, there's signs in that for people who are sabbar, patient, who are steadfast, and shakur, of course, for people who are grateful. Now, why grateful? And in the next verse, Allah mentions why there's sign in that for people who are grateful. وَإِذَا غَشِيَهُم مَّوْجٌ كَالظُّلَلِ دَعَوُا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ. And when people go on ride on ships and they go on, voyages that are hundreds and thousands of miles long, and you don't know what the sea is going to bring for you. You're going to be there for weeks. A hurricane can come, bad weather can come, and it can come and rock your ship in any direction it likes, right? And we have seen, like in the past decades, big, big hurricanes that are so huge that that can reach up to like 5, 6 stories of buildings. So وَإِذَا غَشِيَهُم مَّوْجٌ كَالظُّلَلِ دَعَوُا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ. When big, big waves like the size of mountains overtake these people while they're on the ships, like, what do? They know that they're in trouble. And they say there's no atheist on a sinking ship. So they start calling to Allah Azza wa Jal, Da'awullah mukhlisina lahu din, with all of their sincerity, with all of their attention towards Allah Azza wa Jal. They start calling Allah. And then فَلَمَّا نَجَّاهُمْ إِلَى الْبَرِّ, when Allah Azza wa Jal saves them and rescues them safely and takes them back to the land, then فَمِنْهُمْ مُقْتَصِدٌ, there are some people, some grateful people who actually have some effect, and their heart awakens and they become muqtasid, and they moderate in their belief. Before that, they had no belief in Allah Azza wa Jal, but because they are grateful that Allah Azza wa Jal saved them, some spark came to their heart and they became muqtasid, moderate. There's a recent interview of a singer who was previously a singer, Cat Stevens. He accepted Islam, and they asked him, "Why did you accept Islam? What was the thing that halted you and kind of pushed you and drove you to become Muslim?" So he said that he was surfing on a beach in California by himself, one day. And all of a sudden, this wave that came and took him. And at that moment, he knew he was going to die. There's no one there. Because he's a celebrity, he had to go to a remote place by himself. Otherwise, people would come and, bother him. So he said that at that moment, I knew that I was going to die for sure. There is no way I'm going to be rescued from this wave. So he said, at that moment, I made sincere, I put all of my focus and concentration on the Almighty Being, and I asked him and I begged him to save me. And I said in that prayer that if you save me, I will devote my life to you. So that's where his quest for Islam began, and then he finally became Muslim. So yeah, that's an example of how if you are grateful, then there are signs in everything around you. So someone who is grateful that Allah saved them from such an accident, life and death situation, they will come and they will change their lives. Okay. وَمَا يَجْحَدُ بِآيَاتِنَا إِلَّا كُلُّ خَتَّارٍ كَفُورٍ. And the only people who will reject these signs that are right in front of their eyes are كُلُّ خَتَّار, every treacherous and deceitful person, and kafur, every utterly ungrateful person. Allah just saved you from the sinking ship. You come out and you say, it just whatever. I was just desperate at that time. I didn't know what I was saying. I just said whatever and khalas, that's it. Move on with your life, right? So, khattar and kafur. And then the last couple of verses, this is also about the Day of Judgment. Allah Azza wa Jal gives us some very solid instructions. If we live by those instructions, I think we can fix our lives and perhaps fix a lot of problems and fix our akhirah. Allah says, "إِنْ يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ اتَّقُوا رَبَّكُمْ وَاخْشَوْا يَوْمًا لَا يَجْزِي وَالِدٌ عَنْ وَلَدِهِ." All mankind, and this is at the time this was towards the kuffar and mushrikun of Makkah. Allah says, "اتَّقُوا رَبَّكُمْ." Have fear your Lord. وَاخْشَوْا يَوْمًا لَا يَجْزِي وَالِدٌ عَنْ وَلَدِهِ. And have fear of such a day where no father will be able to benefit from his son, and no son will be able to benefit from his father at all, anything at all, shay'an. Right? So in this world, as we know, a lot of times, we see our children as our biggest hopes, right? When we are getting older and we're aging, we see our children as how a blind person sees a stick, right? He depends on that stick a lot, a blind person. So as we get older, while we become proud of our children, we also start depending on them heavily. And and it makes sense, that if there was anyone for you to kind of trust and rely on, after Allah, of course, would be your children, who you invested your whole lives on. So we have this idea while we're in this world that our children will be there, but at least as Muslims, this is what we expect, right? Uh, that's ajib, like people, a lot of times people without Islam and who are not, who hasn't built these values of iman in their heart, they will see their parents pass away in nursing homes, and they will just openly say, "Oh, I just called them, had a video conference, Zoom call with them before they died. The whole year I didn't see them." It's normal for them. But alhamdulillah for Islam, one of the first things Allah Azza wa Jalla teaches us is duty towards your parents. Like, so we build this idea around father and son relationship, that we are there for one another no matter what happens, and we will support and everything else, right? So Allah breaks that belief and said, on the Day of Judgment, none of those stuff is gonna come to help you, rescue you. You're on your own. Yes, if you left behind children who are pious and God fearing and all of that, then some of the things that they have done, perhaps you're going to benefit off of those actions they have done, if they have done those actions, right? But other than that, on the Day of Judgment, you can't go and run to your children or your kids or your wife or your spouse and be like, "Hey, save me and give me some of your deeds." None of that is going to work. Inna wa'da Allahi haq. Indeed, the promise of Allah Azza wa Jal is the truth, right? All of the promise of Allah Azza wa Jal is the truth and the ultimate truth. فَلَا تَغُرَّنَّكُمُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا. So the first thing that you should understand and internalize after believing and knowing that the promise of Allah is the truth is that Don't let this world fool you. Don't let this world deceive you. فَلَا تَغُرَّنَّكُمُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا. This worldly life is so strange. It's so strange. It's so, you know, the worldly life is almost unfair if you look at it. If we fall into the deception of this world, then the world has an unfair advantage against us, right? Everybody that came to this world felt the same way, that this is the place, this is where I'm gonna be. God knows for how long, but this is the place that's in front of me. This is where I am. This is what I see. This is what I'm gonna work for. It's all about this dunya, right? But then, like, as soon as you start getting older and older, you realize that everybody that got older, they left this world. And you realize that you have no other path, no other route but to also take that same route, which is to leave this world. But you only realize the realization of that gets stronger and stronger as you age. The more older you grow, the more stronger your conviction becomes that this world is temporary, right? So by the end of our lives, we look back at our lives and say, wow, that was fast. That was such a deception. What happened? Right? Now it's my time to go and leave this world. So فَلَا تَغُرَّنَّكُمُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا. Don't let this world deceive you. And وَلَا يَغُرَّنَّكُمْ بِاللَّهِ الْغَرُورُ. Specifically, don't let the deceiver, the main deceiver, deceive you. And who is that? This is shaitan, right? So you have the dunya that's in front of you that can deceive you, and you have shaitan who's instigating and who's always whispering things to you to take you away and mislead you and misguide you. All right. إن الله عنده علم الساعة وينزل الغيث ويعلم ما في الأرحام وما تدري نفس ماذا تكسب غدا وما تدري نفس بأي أرض تموت إن الله عليم خبير. In the last verse, which kind of you know, um, gives us one of the biggest principles of a Muslim that should believe in. If we can fully, internalize and believe in this, and this last verse of Surah Al-Luqman, I think half of our problems in lives would be fixed. Inna Allah indahu ilmu sa'ah. Indeed, Allah Azza wa Jal, only to Him belongs the knowledge of the Day of Judgment. No one knows when uh, the Day of Judgment will come. The hour will come, right? So that is similarly your death. You don't know when your death will come. Well, some say, how come Allah Azza wa Jal didn't just tell us when we were going to die, right? Maybe if He told us, we could have prepared better. If He told us when we're going to die, but if you actually really look at it, if Allah told us when we're going to die, we're going to be sure when we're going to die, and so most of our lives is going to be like, I know when I'm going to die, so I'll just wait until then. Like a year before I die, I'll start fixing up my life. It's like, may Allah protect us all, but if you had a terminal disease or illness, like cancer or something, Allah protect us all, and you were told you have 1 year left, right? So when you know your time is coming, then you start preparing. Then everything starts getting serious. So if Allah told us, hey, you're going to die at the age of 90, what do you think we're going to do until we're like 88? Just fasad and any corruption that comes in our mind, we'll do that, right? We will just go walk in front of the car and the car will have an accident because we know we're not going to die. Or we'll just jump in front of the train. We know we're not going to die. And the train is going to crash and like kill 20 other people or hundreds of other people. But yeah, there's hikmah behind why Allah Azza wa Jal has hidden our death, right? All right. In Allah عنده علم الساعة وينزل الغيث. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He sends down the rain. We don't know when, what condition, or what the rain is going to bring. Well, you might say there's meteorologists and they have radar and whatnot. They're not saying the future. They're just telling you. It's like seeing with a binocular that I see someone coming from far away. That's all basically they're doing. And then they have satellites and they're telling you there's rain over here. It looks like it's going to come this way and it's going to rain on New York City tomorrow. That's not the future. That's just look with the binocular and say you see someone coming. That's all what they're doing. But this is a more on a deeper level, what the rain is going to bring, and the vegetation, the fruits, the rizq that a person or a community or a nation or a country will have. for that year or for a certain time period, right? وَيُنَزِّلُ الْغَيْثَ وَيَعْلَمُ مَا فِي الْأَرْحَامِ, and Allah Azza wa Jalla knows what is in the wombs. Again, you might say, well, there's all this, so I don't know what they're called, but sonograms or something, when they see the child in the womb. You might say, oh, well, those things are there. Again, right? You might be able to see the gender and whatnot. Here, Allah doesn't say who is in the womb. Man fil ard, because man is for human beings, intellectuals. Ma is for non-intellectuals. He knows what is in the womb. It isn't who, what is in the womb. So that could be what is the child gonna come out as, good person, bad person, how much physical is gonna have, what is gonna grow up to be, right? So وَيَعْلَمُ مَا فِي الْأَرْحَامِ وَمَا تَدْرِي نَفْسٌ مَاذَا تَكْسِبُ غَدًا, and a soul does not know what it will earn tomorrow, what will happen the next day. You don't know if by next month this COVID surge is going to skyrocket and we all go back home and hunker down again and lose our jobs and maybe depend on on the government, and some people can't even do that. So you don't know what your risk is going to bring. You see, being a Muslim, alhamdulillah, being Muslim is a privilege, right? Not everybody gets to be Muslim. Whoever Allah chooses to be Muslim will be a Muslim, right? So just like any privileges in life, privileges comes with responsibilities, right? Privileges comes with responsibilities. Like if a person enjoys a privileged occupation, say a pilot or a doctor or whatever, right? It's privileged because not everybody really has the patience to go through all of those long years of studies. Not everybody has the dedication, the work ethic. Not everybody has the financial muscle to pursue those fields. Even to be a pilot, I mean, you can just get your license maybe in 6 months or a year, but to be able to fly commercial airplanes, it takes like years of practice and being under a captain, right? So those things are privilege, right? Privileged occupation, but those things come with big responsibilities as well, right? If a pilot makes a lapse of judgment and makes a mistake, hundreds of people are going to die, right? Once you're in the air, that's it. It's all, and there's no NYPD can come or like some fire department can come or anything like that, right? It's a big responsibility, just like a doctor, a surgeon, right? They take long years and they get to this privileged position, but then there's big responsibilities. If they cut the wrong nerve, for example, or if they, um, make some errors and mistake while doing the surgery, the patient can die. And they even tell you that before they take you in. That, Habibi, you got to sign this paper in case something happens. You can't blame us, right? So, yeah, it's a big responsibility. So, similarly, we as Muslims, it's a privilege that Allah made us Muslims. It does come with a lot of responsibilities. And one of those responsibilities and duties of us as Muslims is that we believe in the qadr of Allah Azza wa Jal, and we believe that whatever Allah has destined for us will happen. Right? Ar-ridha bil qada, to be satisfied and happy with what Allah Azza wa Jal decides for you. It could be anything, right? So right now we're in uncertain situations. We don't know if things are going to get worse for us or if things will get better in the coming months, right? But we have belief, and we have firm conviction and firm tawakkul upon Allah Azza wa Jal for whatever He decides. ليريك نفذ شكور وما تدري نفس بأي أرض تموت. Another thing about that is completely in the hands of Allah Azza wa Jal is when or where a person will die. You don't know where he will die. So again, we are ar-rida bil qada. We become satisfied and happy with whatever Allah Azza wa Jal decides for us. Inna Allah alim khabir. Indeed, Allah is alim, all knowing, and khabir, all aware of all that we do. So these were just the last few verses of Surah Luqman. Allah Azza wa Jal give us all the tawfiq to implement and practice these verses and put them in our lives. Allah Azza wa Jal increase our conviction in Him, our iman and yaqeen and tawakkul in Him. Allah Azza wa Jal give us all the tawfiq to make amal. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه